Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Story Behind the Stories for the February 9th, 2024 edition of the paper. I'm your host this week, Casper Wehrhahn, writer, reporter, well, I guess those two go hand in hand, photographer and archivist for the Neepawa Banner Press. And I'm here this week with owner and publisher Ken Waddell. Ken, thank you so much for having me.
Good to be here.
And as always, we have a lot to cover in this week's paper. Lots of good stories in here, but great place to start, as always, is on the front page. And we have a fantastic story to start off with this week. Some great news that feels like it's pretty much just on the heels of the other news we received with the opening of the Neepawa Training Center. But this is a little down the road here, a little bit further down the community towards Mountain there, our main roads. The Beautiful Plains Medical Clinic, there's going to be a medical residency program there. And Ken, this was a story that you had done up. Walk us through this.
Well, I just kind of lucked into it. I got the phone call on this, and it wasn't a total surprise because we've done, certainly Neepawa has had some resident doctors do some of their program out here. But this is going to be theoretically a permanent program. There'll be 2 medical resident doctors here starting July 1st. And these are doctors who have to put in 2 years of training in a hospital facility, clinic facility, to receive their full medical accreditation. And Dr. Brian Milligan is going to head up the program. He's going to be assisted by Jenna Kilburn. And they're setting up, they have the office in the basement of the Beautiful Plains Medical Clinic. They'll be working there, plus they'll be working at the Neepawa Hospital. And the 2 resident doctors will be taking their shifts in the ER. They have to be accompanied under the wing of a regular full-time doctor, but still it's going to help an awful lot. They can administer prescribed drugs, they can administer certain things. And so they're quite excited about it. It's interesting that I'm pretty sure Brian Milligan may have done some residency work here before he came here as a doctor, and that's quite a few years ago now that he came here as a full-time doctor. But he's always been very interested in the training aspect, as have some of the other doctors, and have welcomed the idea of having students come in to help them. The unique thing about these students is that they have to have made some kind of a commitment to working in rural practice, rural Manitoba. And so that in itself is a good thing. After 8 years, you'll have 8 or 10 or more medical doctors who will have had rural experience. And what happens is, when they do get rural experience, they are blown away usually because they have to cover everything. One day there could be somebody with a broken arm, somebody could have cut themselves in a farm accident or something. They could be delivering a baby. They could be dealing with someone who's old and has various aging diseases. There's no chance really to become specialized. You have to cover the whole gamut. And so usually the students that come here think, wow, I wouldn't have got this chance in a bigger hospital because you've been put in with a certain different category of medicine. Here you have to cover it all, or you're in trouble, obviously. And here in Neepawa, for example, I talk about babies. There are 150 babies a year born at Neepawa Hospital. There's over 30 ER patients a day right now through the ER. And of course, the big thing is that they're gearing up for staffing the new hospital, because with 8 doctors now, they need 9 more here at Neepawa to bring it up to the full complement of 17 that they're predicting to be a full staffing level at the new hospital. So anyway, there's a long speech, but anyway, that's the whole story there.
No, that's good. Yeah, it definitely provides a wider experience for these doctors getting into their practice. And of course, as you mentioned, we're preparing for big developments here, the new hospital that is being built as we speak. And if I remember correctly, this is kind of significant too, because this is partially through funding with U of M, right?
Yes, the U of M and the Max Rady Medical School, they require the doctors to do a 2-year residency program, and so there's some funding going through that, obviously, to come into any hospital, but particularly to Neepawa Hospital. And the thing with the clinic is, I asked the question, so there's 2 suites in the clinic, and they've been used for, interim doctors, for nurses training, whatever, for students to live right there in the clinic, not have to drive to work or whatever,
Right.
Set up something temporary, because some of those positions are, a month or 2 weeks or whatever. But those suites are fully booked, and so they're going to have to find accommodation for these other 2 the first year, and by the next year 4 resident doctors here in Neepawa going to have to find other housing, and that could be a challenge.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing that might be a little bit of a bump in the road for sure. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I guess on that note, and this is just sort of like a speculation thing, what if, but with this addition to the Beautiful Plains Medical Clinic, I'm kind of thinking, will they maybe perhaps get another expansion to help with that sort of capacity sometime in the future? That'd be kind of neat to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how at full capacity they are right now. I unfortunately, I've been to the clinic quite a few times in the last few months. It doesn't seem that all the rooms are in use at any one time, but that's a good question to ask, and I should ask that, because I don't know where they'd expand to next, because they're kind of running out of land there again.
Yeah.
So. It's a long walk down that hall now. But my doctor has the last room in the hall, so I get my exercise just going to go see the doctor.
Right. Well, we always enjoy seeing an expansion in education here, and we have another bit of expansion in education, and more of a financial sense here throughout the province, but in particular, we're going to be speaking on the Beautiful Plains School Division. There was a major announcement on February 1st, so just recently, and the province announced that it's increasing its annual allocation to public and independent schools by $104.2 million. Obviously, that's going to be split differently between the schools based on a few different factors, such as enrollment, I believe, if I am recalling that correctly. And of that number, I believe the figure here for Beautiful Plains School Division, oh yep, there it is, was, and I apologize if I misread this, $1,357,000 for the 2024-25 fiscal year. That does include a portion a portion of that does include nutrition funding that was also announced on January 30th. But that is a pretty significant increase over what they've had before. I don't have the percentage highlighted here, but it is in the paper, and if you take a look at that, you'll be able to see just how significant this is for them. So it's great to see that. Of course, there's some need there throughout the province to help, keep things improving in school divisions. So anything you'd like to add? Well,
our ever energetic fellow worker, Owen Devereaux, provided us a little cheat sheet here. He says the 2023 budget was $26,557,996. And then you mentioned the $1,357,000 amounts to about a 5% increase of the budget. And if 2024 is similar, that's 3.3% higher than the level inflation for Manitoba, and 1.7% higher than the average percentage in new support distributed to schools from the announcement. So it looks as if, from those figures, that Neepawa, or Beautiful Plains, which includes, of course, much more than Neepawa, is getting a good share, or a healthy share of this money. But there's a reason for that, and that is that the population of the school keeps going up and up and up. You'll recall we built a new middle school a few years ago, and it was to replace the temporary huts, as they call them, or temporary classrooms, portable classrooms. They never took away the portable classrooms. They're still there, and they're still full. So they're at capacity, I think, again there. So that's I don't know if this will be any more additional classroom space, but I know that they've got a lot of students in the school, a lot. And of course, they're still hopeful that the money will come through for the previously announced regional secondary high school that would increase the capacity a whole bunch more too.
Exactly, yeah. I remember speaking with someone from the school. I don't recall who it was off the top of my head at the moment, because it was quite a while ago now, obviously. But with the opening of the middle school there, whatever story I was working on, I was talking with them, and they were like, yeah, it's full already.
Yeah.
It didn't take any time at all for that to fill up. I mean, it's no secret Neepawa is a growing town. It's very quickly growing. And I can't foresee that slowing down anytime soon. And so then, of course, we have the vocational school that was announced, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, that's going to fill up pretty fast too, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take the fact that there's 150 babies born every year, even only if 2/3 of them end up in the catchment area for the school, you know, if 100 kids per year is an awfully big kindergarten class. And I don't think we have 100 kindergarten kids now yet, but per year. But that's kind of rough figures, obviously. But the town is growing, and one of the reasons it's growing ties back into our lead story, which ties into the medical clinic. But it's because even though we're still very short of doctors here, you can come to Neepawa and go to the emergency room and be treated. And Neepawa is the only full-time ER between Portage and Russell on the Highway 16. And the only full-time ER that I know of between Killarney and St. Rose on the number 5 highway route. And both those distances are in the 140-mile range either way.
Yeah, and that's pretty significant. So being able to come here to do that is quite something.
And people will tell you if they live between here and Brandon and they have a choice, they'll come to the Neepawa ER because you might wait 2 hours or 3, whereas in Brandon waiting 8 is not unusual.
Right.
And it's not quite frankly, I mean, you don't have to read the newspaper reports very often for the Brandon area to understand that. Let's put it this way, a wait in the Brandon ER can be less than comfortable in terms of some of the activity that goes on in that room because of the type of cases they're handling there.
Right.
I've been there, done that, seen that. And it's if you can avoid being in Brandon ER, and God bless them for how hard they work there, you want to avoid being in Brandon ER.
Right. But yes, so that will be a good boost to the school division there, and helping with their budget to hopefully provide some more program or whatever they need to allocate that for to help things moving forward as they are wanting it to. And in terms of budgeting, of course, taxpayers will have, or currently do have, I should say, an opportunity to provide inputs for the town of Neepawa right now. They have their pre-budget survey going on as we speak. They made it available online late January, I think it was January 30th. And so people are able to go on there and provide some feedback until it closes on February 16th. So that's right around the corner. So if you haven't gone and done that yet, be sure to do that. Drop in at the office if you need to do it in hard copy paper. They do have that option available too. And some additional interesting notes here that our hardworking Owen has also provided. Some information from after our print deadline here that you might find interesting is that property taxes in the 2024 municipal budget for Brandon, and you're going to cringe when you hear this, I'm sure, increased by 9.4%, while Winnipeg's rose by 3.5%. So hefty first number, and I'm sure the Winnipeg one isn't too nice to hear either. But in comparison, just for reference, Neepawa's property tax increase for 2023 was 1.5, and before that it was 1.57, and in 2021 there was no increase whatsoever. So quite the stark difference there, Ken.
Yes, and I've been in that chair, the mayor's chair, a couple of times over the last 2 decades, and it's always councillors usually try to keep the increases at the rate of inflation or whatever, and Brandon all of a sudden has just burst out the far end of the pipe here with things that they feel they have to spend money on. And I won't get into the details of what they're spending money on because I don't really know. But Neepawa taxes are high, but the increases haven't been very high over the years. And but we also know that our roads are terrible and extremely rough. And the streets and sidewalks aren't in great shape either. And so there's a lot of work left to do. The very visible every day, we use it all the time type of work, being the streets and the sidewalks. But in fairness, Neepawa has put in, through taxation, but also through a lot of grants that they've been able to get from federal and provincial government, a lot of improvement into the water treatment plant, the water lines, the sewage treatment plant. You know, the sewage treatment plant is supposedly state of the art now and not putting very much water back into the river system, which was always an issue before. And a lot of good things have happened, a lot of new housing, new development, but it costs a lot of money. So there might be a substantial increase this year. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on that, see how much it'll change from the past years. Of course, as you said, we've had a lot of development, and we do have work that needs to be done in different areas, the roads, for example. Though I was impressed, I have to say. I don't know how they pulled this together so quickly, especially because I think it would be under highways designation, but just up at the main cross-section of lights there, if you're in the turning lane to go right or go straight through the one roadway there was, during the warm spell that we had, so of course now we're in the cold spell again, there was a bit of a pothole that formed, and it was quite nasty. And I think it was only there for like about a week or so. I might be misjudging the time there, but it's all patched up now already. I was really shocked by that, I have to say.
No, the workers try very hard to keep ahead of it, but it's we don't have the asphalt. I don't think they can get the asphalt here locally. I think they have to truck it from Brandon. So that's that's a step, an extra step that kind of hurts a bit. But you can't afford to have an asphalt plant here either locally, apparently. So.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things that you need to take care of in a town budget, including roads and other infrastructure. And it can be a lot to try and keep up with. I mean, you have to try and stay in budget as much as possible, and there's only so much wiggle room that you get in a budget.
Right.
So being able to do as much as they can with a budget is important, and so this will give you an opportunity to give your opinion on where you would like that money spent.
Fill out the survey, and be sure to tell them that you want to see your reports about the town on NAC TV and in the Neepawa Banner. You don't want any of that social media stuff, okay? You want the newspaper and the NAC TV.
Yes, please. If I may, really quickly, because we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. I wholeheartedly agree. Like, social media, and I've said this before, in as many words or fewer words, but social media is only typically good for something if people are specifically looking for it. Yes, it might get a share or something to help widen the circle a little bit, but it's not as wide-reaching as you typically think it is. So it's important to get the news out there in different ways, and paper is a great way to do that. And of course, we're in the news business. We want to share the news, so help us keep in the loop to keep you in the loop. Moving on to a big story here, one that is close to the hearts of the community of Gladstone, people who are from Gladstone that maybe don't live there anymore or are still living there. But there is a pretty significant building that's going to be coming down very soon, the Galloway building. And for those of you who don't know, there was a fire in the building very close to it, the Gladstone Hotel it was called, right?
Yeah, originally it was called the Alhambra Hotel, I believe, way back in the day. Yeah, yeah, the hotel burnt. And it was attached, well, cheek by jowl, adjoining walls, not common wall, but adjoining walls with the building, yeah. You can see it on very clearly on page 8 there, how the damage took place.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it was a tragic fire all around. But speaking just in terms of the building here, the fire did cause some internal damage and some on the exterior, of course, as well, with how close the buildings were. And it's unfortunately, it's come. So, I mean, it's been in the community for quite a while. I think it was 1886.
I believe so.
They moved in there, or it was built. The Galloway brothers. Yeah. It was Roper and William Galloway. And they had a few different stores, and that was one of them. So it's pretty significant in terms of history, just from that aspect, but then from other aspects as well. I mean, the people of the community have a lot of memories there. I'm sure there's been many other businesses that took residence in that building too. Yeah. People who have lived in there. So it's very close to the hearts of many people there. From a variety of standpoints, of course, you have the personal connection, you have the historical connections. So it's sad to see it go. Yeah.
That building is there's a couple of tidbits that I've picked up over the years. Understand that the Galloway Brothers building was the largest department store between Winnipeg and I believe Calgary at one time. People kind of shake their head at that, but at one time Gladstone was the furthest settlement in the Western development. It settled a little before Neepawa did. And this building here has been around, like you say, the mid-1880s. At one time, they said that 100 people worked out of that building, which seems hard to believe. There's picture evidence that shows that it was originally heated with wood. So the amount of wood to keep that thing going would be phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been through the building, but never up to the upstairs. But it's still, when you took a look at the one picture, it was just last summer, I think it was taken, it looks beautiful, or just before the fire, I mean. But this one after the fire, well, the building still looks good, but there was so much damage inside, as the story explains. Owner Mike Wehrhahn explained it to me that he'd insulated the walls between the apartments and between the floors. And of course, when the smoke poured into that building from the fire from the hotel and the other building that was between the hotel and the Galloway brothers, the smoke just smoked the building completely. Yeah. And they couldn't figure out a way to economically bring it back. So it's coming down, if it's not already down as we speak.
Yeah, we were trying to keep tabs there on news of when it was coming down. Unfortunately, there wasn't a specific date available at the time, so maybe there has been one since we've looked at it last.
Well, they were waiting till the weather got colder because they were worried about all the trucks tearing up the streets and the roads.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, we do have that story on page 8, of course, with some comments that we gleaned from the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and some history as well, so be sure to take a look at that. Just tried to summarize it as best I could from the history book that we had on hand here, so if there's anything that isn't in there, well, simply because I tried to keep it as short as possible, but hopefully nothing got mixed up in there too. I think I kept it in order.
You did a great job, and the thing is that one of the things that people may not know is that we have the full archives of the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press, back to 1896, and then we have quite a collection of community history books here too. So with a little bit of research, we dig through and find these things. But anytime people want to give us news tips about historical things, we'd love to hear that too.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, even if you just have a one-off old photo, I mean, that's something that we love to share. But we better get moving on here to our other stories that we still have to get to. We've just got about 5 minutes left in this show. We're moving on down the road a little further, back around to Minnedosa. We have a few different events going on here. But first off that we'd like to talk about here is the Skate the Lake. This is an event that's been going on for a while now. I believe this is the 16th annual Skate the Lake. Yep, 16th. And the 5th annual Rocks Lakes that was sort of added on in later years to add some more activities to the event. And that is going to be on February 17th through the 18th this year at the Lake Minnedosa. And it looks like a fantastic event. I mean, I haven't been down there yet myself to check it out personally, but I recall Owen went down, I think it was last year, or at least one of the previous years, and just commented on how personally impressed he was with the effort that's put into this event. I mean, with the clearing of the ice on the lake to make the individual rinks, I mean, that's an effort for sure.
Oh yeah, no, they do a great job. They've got a whole bunch of hockey rinks and the pond curling, and they get tremendous support there. Well organized event, and I don't know who for sure is although it quotes Tanis Barrett as a member of the organizing committee, but they've got a great committee there, and they do a lot of work and a lot of lessons to be learned there by other communities on how to run a really great event.
Absolutely, for sure. And hopefully this cold snap that we're having right now is giving them the weather to finish up some on-ice preparations. I know when I spoke to Tanis there, she said that the warm weather sort of impeded things a little bit, and they're just waiting for it to cold up again to finish off some things there. Also in Minnedosa, pretty much around the same time, is the annual Curling for a Cure, which is February 16th to 18th. So you have a little bit of overlap there. So if you want to make a day trip, I'm sure that's going to be possible. Some particular details for Skate the Lake and all of that is going to be shared at a later date on the Skate the Lake website. And then of course we have a little bit of times in here for the Curling for a Cure. But this is a fantastic event, and I know we have to be pretty quick here. But just looking at the timeline of, well, I mean, obviously this is only its 5th annual event, so it's been here for 4 years, and this will be the 5th. But just the background on this, it being in memory of Nick Melnick, and the goal behind it. Obviously, you have the wider goal in general, just fundraising for cancer funds. They were seeking to raise like $100,000 in 10 years. And they've already come really close to that in this period of time. This is their 4th straight sellout for team registrations. And to date, they have gotten $61,000 toward their goal. That's amazing. We're not even like halfway through that time period they were shooting for, so that's pretty outstanding.
Yeah, that's fantastic. A lot of community spirit there, and to be commended on raising that kind of money for such a good cause. So.
Absolutely. So definitely check out those details, and if you can, plan a trip to go down there. Quick couple mentions before I have to wrap up here. We also have the Neepawa Nova's Invitational, which is on page 12. Be sure to take a look at that. We had a couple pictures in last week, but we've got some more photos in here with results. We've also got the Neepawa Area 4-H. We have some information from them on page 18. And of course, we have our Snow Day contest winners. Take a look at that on page 20. We have 3 lucky winners, 1 from each of our photo categories. So be sure to take a look at that and so much more in this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you for joining us on the Story Behind the Stories. And be sure to contact us if you have any news tips, opinions, letters to the editor at news@neepawabanner.com, or give us a call at 204-476-3401. And of course, we're happy to get any advertising we can because we are a free paper. Reach out to us at that same phone number or ads at neepawabanner.com. Thanks, and have a good day.